likes the battery idea versus the charger. And then the Motorola, which is going to end up being the most expensive, which is over $200 to get 8 of them. Because the 4 price is $107. So that goes 23 miles, has 22 channels. Some of them have a weather channel capability, which I think if we're having a function, I mean, I've done street fairs where the security knew from the weather what was going to happen, and sometimes Liberty told us, pack up now and get out of here because there's a big storm coming. So I think that the weather capability is an important thing, especially if this is for outside functions. We're in Florida, we can get interesting storms. So, you know,
recommendation?
I would recommend for the extras, we're not talking a lot, you know, a little over $200 for 8 of them, you know, for the Motorola.
Okay.
Because I do like that weather function.
Yeah, do I have a motion?
I'll second. I make a motion to order the Motorola walkie-talkies for $214 plus tax.
Okay, and the point is, that we have a second from Wanda. Any discussion?
No.
Quick second. We would do a couple of meters, something for this? No. Okay. And the question I got, these are two-way radios that'll be able to be used by everybody at functions, etc. But in terms of inventorying them, maintaining them, storing them, it's going to be done here with this clubhouse with the management company handling that function. In other words, we're going to register the serial numbers, etc., so that they don't disappear.
Oh, right.
Right. Yeah.
Just with the rain on these, maybe a very good idea that we implement that our maintenance person carries one.
Yeah.
And keep one in the office. PBP.
Yeah. They're multi-function.
You know, I mean, there's more uses to that.
These are, you know, tasks that you have in case of emergency.
Right.
These are.
Like there's a fire hydrant we're running out front. What's that about?
23 miles is very much.
That's
So
what
I
I
would, within 23 miles, if there's a hurricane warning.
Right.
But the,
Since we're actually having comment on it, I like the first one, the unit first one. Not only for the price, you get 8 for 110.
The unit did not have the weather channel, you know.
You were talking, it's the Motorola's running.
Oh, yeah, right, but that was the only thing about some of the less expensive ones, they did not have that capability to pick up the weather channel.
The problem with the weather channel is I've used walkies with the weather channel.
Okay.
It's very, I mean, it might have been the one that I had, the quad one I have, it's very stacky.
Okay.
Well, this has, I know it's an option of there's like 7 to 10 different weather channels.
Well, there's a motion on the floor, it's been seconded. Do we have any further comment? Quickly, yes, William.
Hearing from the back of the room tonight, there's a few people back there, that I guess there's a way that you can get on your phone some sort of app that's free that turns your phone into a walkie-talkie. So that'll cost us nothing. So have we looked into that?
No, I would not.
it's called Tickle, T-I-K-L, operates just like Nextel did back in the day. Free app, operates off an Android, iPhone.
Sounds complicated.
Yeah, it does.
It's free.
Right, but then, all right,
Should we at least look into that before we decide to spend money?
the only thing with that, and I mean, it is a good idea if you're using it for an hour or so, but I know my battery, when it's been used for a long time,
Leave your
it's the
camera
battery.
on or something like that.
Right, the battery goes down real fast. So if you're using your phone and there's something wrong with your battery, or your battery, you know, we're talking, this is a 4-hour activity, but someone who is walking around for hours, that's not gonna work for them.
Okay.
The maintenance guys don't have smartphones.
Right, and have this
Right,
smart.
Just real quick, with the walkie-talkie and the need for it, you're talking about having functions, so you may have volunteers, I think is what you're looking at, or you might have teenagers, whatever you want to use the walkie-talkies for, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So probably it would be advantageous to do walkie-talkies in that, because if you're giving them to volunteers, kids are probably going to be on their phone, texting, and doing whatever anyway, the teenagers. So I think the walkie-talkie is probably the way to go for a volunteer.
liability or
I usually go, most of these have ratings, so these are, you know, like 4 out of 5 stars. You know, so they're pretty good as far as the ratings go.
Okay, so we got a motion, it's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion, which is to purchase 2 of the 4 set of Motorola two-way radios, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Okay, new business, updates on some of these issues. We've got a mainline break issue. Who would be the most appropriate person to talk about this, Chuck or Mike? So you can give an update here. Just kind of set the stage as to what happened, how it was discovered, etc. Mike?
Well, I discovered it with our, with public power going around with this. Okay.
So just from the beginning, let the residents know kind of what happened.
We were going around doing checks on properties over in Greenwood Manor about some issues that we're having with, Palmish Broward, some of the mowing and blowing that, and whatnot. And while we're doing that, I happened to notice that the grass was a little higher, a little greener in this area. And walked over and next mow, there were ruts in it. And I'm like, okay, what's the deal? So Chris and I went over and looked, and not real sure. Let's get Mike from Image out. Mike from Image Irrigation came out, dug about a 8-foot deep by 6-foot wide hole, and discovered that we have a leak from one of our irrigation lines, a 6-inch main that runs underneath the Greenwood Manor entrance.
This is on the north side of the...
Right, it's on the north side of the entrance, but that's where the water's coming out.
So that's where it's cordoned off, where people are driving by, seeing it cordoned off,
That's
there's tape.
where the water's coming out, because if you can envision, it's a sleeve pipe, which means that there's a pipe, an outer pipe, and a pipe inside of it, with room for water to come out, because it's under a road, so it doesn't create a washout. That we have a leak somewhere along there, that the sleeve is doing its job, and bringing the water out to an area where it's not going to erode away our road. We contacted a couple of vendors. One of them did a project, and then since then it's been more than a hassle to get a hold of. Initially came in at a cost of like $12,000, and then said, well, you know what, I think it's going to be more like 40. So we started reaching out to some other people. This happened yesterday. We started reaching out to some other contacts and recommendations through other people. Chuck and I met with a vendor this morning. I don't know if I should disclose names yet. We just look at it.
Sure.
You want me to?
Well, no, the point is that I just wanted the community to know that we discovered this problem. We initially thought it was an emergency because we were concerned about the washout, concerned about the road, concerned about damage to the sidewalk, etc. But it's obvious to us now that it's not necessarily an emergency. And so the dire need to hire a contractor that's already out here on property doing work on another job, that kind of has passed. So we're gonna, I think at this point, we're gonna solicit bids.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
We're still in it's not necessarily an emergency, but it still needs to be done tomorrow.
It does.
Tomorrow kind of a thing.
This is running from the lakes.
This is running from our lakes.
Okay, so our pumps are running the water out of the lakes.
It's a hot line, it's
Okay.
a constant line. We've reached out to no less than a half dozen vendors. We've been able to get several and give us a price that then came back and said, well, how about 40?
Right.
And
They're out.
They're gone. I mean, if you ask me, I would trust the company to come in and do that.
Well, be that as man, the 6 vendors, you don't have to name them, but where do we stand on the vendors?
We have one that's interested.
Okay. I was 6.
I had 6 due to the scope of the work and due to the time frame. And the reason being is that, and a couple of vendors actually recommended this vendor. Alternate Mac Irrigation is a company that's been recommended by a couple of Mac Irrigation in the city. They have a little niche for doing communities when they start up, and they also have a niche for doing big main lines. They've got 10 teams that do nothing but main lines.
The main line is the important work.
And that's
pulled out, right?
There's a lot to it. He went over a couple of different things that nobody else has mentioned, as far as having to dig up both sides of the road, do the metal plants. He's going to GPS all the lines that he sees while they do the dig. They're going to GPS everything. They're talking about putting in isolation valves, so that if this ever happens again, we don't have to shut down pumps or anything. We can close down that one line, fix it, and not worry.
Just so everybody's aware, this main line, that's like the line that runs the water to all of Greenwood.
Right.
Irrigation, so once that work is being done, as I understand it, it's gonna have to be shut down for a period of days. We've already got,
We're
getting
looking
some
at
grounding.
about 7 days.
Yeah, so we're talking about 7 day shutdown with no water,
No
so.
water.
Okay, so the status at this point is, let me just finish the update and then we'll go to questions. So the status at this point is we're still trying to get bids from vendors.
We were hoping to get, Mac was told us that they get us their bid this afternoon.
Okay.
That didn't happen for some reason. I know that the check is now live.
So we're gonna continue to populate the bidders, try to get bids, try to get information. I'm hopeful that, we don't, have to do this bid sort of evaluation and selection before our next meeting, if we have to. Okay, well, so we have a bid possibly from Matt, but my point is that, I'm trying not to have a meeting for the purpose of getting an approval of bid, because it's an emergency that needs to be done. So, correct, so I just want everybody to be aware of what's going on, we're gonna try to do the best we can and minimize the costs. Right, we'll probably have to do the course of action without a meeting, so just be aware of that. If you have any questions, though?
Well,
yes,
we're gonna get
yes.
a spreadsheet and everything else,
Yes,
right?
yes, you'll get the same type of information as you would in a meeting, but we're just not gonna be able to do it in a meeting because of the emergency nature of getting it fixed. I don't know what the outflow is of the gallons per minute per hour right now, but it's a lot. I mean, if you go by Greenwood and you look, you can see the water overflowing the curb running into
Why don't
the
we just
sewer.
turn off the water?
Because then you can't irrigate, then you can't water any Greenwood.
But if it worsens, it will. If it gets any worse, it will.
Sure.
I guess,
So we're monitoring.
I guess the question is, why don't we,
If you turn off that water,
yeah,
Greenwood Manor gets no irrigation.
Irrigation, none at all.
They would be, at this point, they would have been without irrigation for 9 days.
okay, but when you turn it on, can they irrigate?
Yes,
So then you can turn it off when you're not.
you can't turn it off.
It's a hot line, it's got constant water.
There's no shut off.
There's no shut off.
That's what we're gonna put in.
That's what the isolation valve is about.
Any other questions?
Just a-
Yeah, any update?
We just got another bid, and he's bidding the same way as Seminole.
Okay, we'll put it in the.
Basically, what we're
spreadsheet.
gonna see is a time and material scenario.
Sure.
And then he's not just quoting.
They're gonna be vague because they don't know.
This one, they don't know how long the
Right.
tractor's gonna have to be there to pull the line out. You gotta actually hook it up to a front end loader and drag that line out with the hope that it doesn't collapse and then put it right back in on another line, so. Okay, any comments from the, yes, Harry?
Two questions. What type of contractor are you looking for? Is it an underground person?
Utility.
Yeah.
Utilities,
Yeah.
underground utilities.
Yes, ma'am.
And then
Some kind of site
how
work.
long has that been going on?
Just about 9 days.
We discovered it 9 days ago.
About 9 days.
Before that, do we have any idea how long it's been?
No,
We don't.
no. we don't.
That was the
It's
discovery,
surface.
it was 9 days ago.
Discovery was about 9 days ago.
I don't think it was very long, but, you know, because it couldn't have been, what day was it? Do you remember what day it was? Because they're mowing on a Wednesday and a Thursday.
And it was Friday that you and I were out there at 7 o'clock at night taking a video.
Also, when a pipe breaks underground, the pressure from the soil and everything, will suppress the water. So not that we
And
probably.
what causes that?
We don't know yet.
Well, that's a good question. When you look at it, it's right near where the construction was being done at the front of the intersection. So, but I don't know the answer. But that's a concern. Any other questions? Okay, so just update, we'll get you information as much as we can at the right time. We'll send a spreadsheet out. It might end up being a T&M basis, which means that we're not gonna have a cap on it. And we may just have to kind of see where it goes, but we'll try to be diligent about it. Okay, security issues and update on changing of the access control provider. Eric, I want to get your point of view on some things, but there's been some issues with the security company that have been reported to me about guards and people sleeping on the job, Rover's asleep, Rover's never moving, Rover's not doing what it needs to be doing. There's been a lot of complaints about the vendor. Those complaints came to us. We reported them to the security committee. They've been looking at it. And it's my understanding that the vendor is trying to improve, trying to fix the problems. because of the severe nature of the complaints that I've been receiving as the president and passing them on, obviously, the management company, as well as, some of the emergency issues that have come up where we've had emergencies. There's been an inability by the security company to properly deal with those emergency situations, which is concerning to us because it's a potential liability issue. Having said all that, I attended the security committee meeting last night with Eric Graham. Had a full committee. They've been discussing the top 10 points that they want to accomplish in the way of bringing in a new vendor, and what are the things that they want in a vendor. The discussion at the meeting also, I made my point known, and I want the board to know this, that I think it's important to get the security committee's feedback as to whether, I'm not a security expert, I don't profess to be. I know we've got people here that are police officers, law enforcement officers, and we've got people that are involved in the security that, as a profession, that have attended the security committee meetings. But I'm not a professional, and I don't feel like I should be the one that develops the top 10 because, what do I know about security, right? I may think that there needs to be 2 rovers, but maybe we don't need 2 rovers because our community's not that big or it's situated where we only need 1. So what I propose to the security committee is that I'd like to hear a recommendation or some thoughts from the committee about should we be developing a top 10 or should we be going to a vendor and getting more of an idea from the vendors about what they think might work better in our community. So with that, I was at the security committee meeting and I talked to Eric about that. And I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but then I'll go to questions in a second. Eric, yeah. And this is about how do we select and move on to the next vendor?
I agree with you, like anything else when it's something that's outside your scope of knowledge, that you go to vendors and have them do presentations in order to figure out exactly what you need. This isn't my wheelhouse, it's just getting to me by this meeting board.
Well, you volunteered and we accepted.
I did not volunteer, I was asked to do it and I said, okay. But,
thank you.
You're welcome. So, having said that, in discussion with Chuck, we thought it'd be prudent to figure out exactly what we wanted for the most part in a security company before we solicited presentations and bids, if you will. We wanted to actually look at what we had before we moved on to see what we wanted to get. And through this process, and Chuck can comment on it as well, the current security company is slowly improving. I don't know if they've improved to the point where we want to retain them for the future, but Chuck asked to have 30 to 45 days to look at them, see what they were doing, good and bad, work with them, work on fixing mistakes before we move forward with possibly bringing them to the company. So we wanted to come up with things that we wanted in the company before we got presentations. We're close to the stage now, pretty much we can get presentations and bids from other companies. But we didn't want to do that until we knew for sure that we wanted to move away from general security. Now, I'm not saying that we're not going to, but right now, we're in that gray area, if you will. We're right there. Are we going to stick them out, let them improve still, or are we going to move on? And we're right there in that gray area. And Chuck made a comment on that.
Let me get to some comments from Bob.
Suzanne, how many proposals do you have total? 7?
7 proposals.
Okay, here's the problem, if we don't put some facts in. We've got 7 proposals from companies, wherever they came from. Now we go back and say, come on in and give us another general, and then we go back again and say, give us specs. By that time, we'll be lucky if we got one back.
No, they're all happy to come in and give their presentation, that's what he's saying.
No, I know, hold on. You've you've got proposals there. Then you want to come in and have presentations. Then, let me just give you an idea. So you get the 7 back in and you say, oh, I'm going to go with this guy because